Intentionality. I want to talk about this. I actually saved this conversation until you and I got to know each other a little bit. If you are further in recovery, you will already have absorbed the idea of intentionality. If you are early in recovery, this is a huge obstacle that can keep you from healing your spouse and actually making progress yourself. Remember, this whole DVD is about helping you help your spouse heal. Your spouse has gone through years, if not decades, of feeling deprived, neglected, maybe even hated, unloved, and ugly. And your intimacy anorexia caused those feelings. These feelings from your spouses are real and they're very, very valid. These feelings are directly connected through the various strategies of the intimacy anorexia and the friends of intimacy anorexia that you have employed against your spouse to consistently keep distance in your relationship, to keep you safe or from having anxiety that you feel intimacy might be happening. As your spouse learns about intimacy anorexia, he or she will go through their marriage to you, and they will see so many real examples of you sabotaging intimacy, creating distance, creating pain on a regular basis. Your spouse will have already put together some of these patterns. Now remember, your spouse, if they are not IA, are not medicating in this way. They don't have a bad box to avoid, and they have scars from these IA behaviors over the years and decades. So here's the question you will have to answer to your spouse. How have you hit the bullseye thousands of times in various scenarios of creating distance with no intentionality? The answer is, it's mathematically impossible to be so successful without any intentionality. You can see the dilemma. You're intentionally doing this, makes sense, and actually gives your spouse hope that there could be change. If it's all a mystery and there's no taking full responsibility, there's no hope and only guaranteed more pain, distance, and being not enough and being unloved that your spouse will look forward to. Here, if you're early in recovery, you'll just have to trust my 35 years of experience. You absolutely are creating distance intentionally. Now, it can take you 60 to 90 days of actively doing recovery until you realize this, okay? Mostly because of the good box, bad box we talked about. It's impossible to stay in the good box if you're regularly creating distance and pain. It is necessary, this distance and pain that you're creating is necessary for you to feel safe, but it's at your spouse's expense. You don't want to do that. You will have to be flawed in love often before you can accept intentionality. However, if you are trying to help your spouse heal, do not argue this point. You can say, I'm not far enough in my recovery to see that I'm being intentional. You can say, I'm not mature enough to see or acknowledge that at this point, but I will write it down and I will get back to you. You might be right. Let me call my sponsor or ask my group member or talk about this in therapy so I can gain insight into whether I'm being intentionality. But you don't want to go down the road of, no, I'm not doing this intentionally, because if your spouse has any level of IQ, it's going to be an irrational conversation. Now, you can also track your IA strategies daily. You can track your intimacy anorexia friends daily. You can track your intentionally moving towards your spouse. You will eventually be able to feel when your IA is actually being intentional. Owning intentionality in general and per occurrence is huge for your spouse's healing and your own recovery. It basically says to your spouse, honey, let me be honest with you. I felt me pull away. I felt me create distance. I know that topic would tick you off and we were having such a good time. I know that I sabotaged you before asking you for sex. I know that I forgot the date and I have a cell phone that would remind me if I would have put it in. So I wasn't intentional about remembering. When you take responsibility it really means a lot to your spouse. It gives them some hope that you're actually seeing these things that you're doing that are creating intentional pain for your spouse. And most spouses are reasonable. If they see you trying and learning and growing, they'll be patient with you. But if they see you being defensive every time they say, was that an IA thing? You go, no, I didn't do that. Say, you know what? Let me think about that. I may not be mature enough to answer you right now. I might need some time to think about that because right now I'm feeling defensive and I know that's the wrong feeling and I need to get some clarity. Let me make some phone calls. See, when you kind of come under and you humble yourself and say, it could be. I could be actively creating distance right now. I really need to think about that. Now, if your spouse is doing what we call the block punch and they're saying they feel distance, don't argue with them. Just move in, give them a hug. Say, I don't want this. I don't want this at all. But hear me, intentionality is real. And you have intentionally done this for years or decades. There's no mathematical possibility that you could hit a bullseye of creating distance thousands of times without ever aiming. So I hope this is helpful for you. If you're early in recovery, it might kind of feel hard for you to digest. If you're kind of in recovery for a while, you kind of already get this. And I really hope you the best.